Hello, brothers and sisters. Hey, thanks for joining me. Today, I wanted to do a follow up on that story about the man who was attacked while he was burning a Koran outside of the Turkish embassy. And I think what we saw was he was initially found guilty of causing some hate crime, some alarm and distress out in public for burning a Koran. And people were complaining because this was really the blasphemy laws back again, because it's actually legal in the UK to burn a Koran or a Bible. Now, for full disclosure, I've always said I don't think it should be. I actually do think it is an incitement to violence to burn anyone's holy book or anyone's flag in that country, because that's an incitement to violence and should not be free speech. But the law says it is. So it was a travesty that this guy was found guilty of doing this. And I'm still interested to see what happens to the man who tried to stab him. He still deserves something. He went back to his house and got a knife and came back and attempted to stab the man. And I did a story on that earlier. But his trial is still ongoing. I don't think he's been sentenced. But let's see what just happened this week. Man found guilty after burning Quran outside Turkish embassy wins his appeal as campaigners hail victory for free speech. Yes, good. Like I said, I don't think he should be burning a Quran. It is bad. And I think it should be illegal, but it's not. So it was a travesty for the courts to take that up. I get the police doing their job, and he was burning something in public. That might be a fire hazard. Might be some kind of nuisance. So I'm actually okay with the police arresting him for that, but then also arresting the knife man for attempted murder with a knife, and then let the courts and the prosecution figure it out. And the prosecution should have quickly just dropped this case and stopped wasting everyone's time and money on it, if burning a Koran is legal. A man who burned a Koran outside the Turkish consulate in London has won an appeal against his conviction. Hamit Kosan was found guilty earlier this year of a religiously aggravated public order offense after shouting "fuck Islam" while holding a flaming religious text aloft outside the Turkish consulate in England's capital city in February. Good. Finally, there's a win. This is not going to be one of my free speech UK styles. Finally, the courts have done the right thing here. Before traveling to London, the 51-year-old wrote posts on social media detailing his plan and saying it was to protest the Islamist government. So it was a protest. Don't you have freedom to peacefully protest in the UK? As long as the Quran is his property and he's not breaking some other kind of law, like a fire hazard law, should be fine, right? And he was never charged with that, I don't believe. He claimed that the President Erdogan of Turkey has made Turkey a base for radical Islamists and is trying to establish a Sharia regime. With the backing of campaigners, Koskin won an appeal against his conviction at Southwark Crown Court today. Good. This must be him just before he burned the Quran. It looks like he's got a book in his hand. Turkey-born Mr. Koskin, who is half Kurdish and half Armenian and lives in England, had his legal case funded by the National Secular Society and the Free Speech Union. His appeal case was also attended this week by Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick, who said that while he did not agree with what Mr. Koskin had done, I don't believe it's a crime. That's exactly how campaigners had argued the prosecution and conviction was akin to blasphemy being reintroduced by the back door inadvertently by our court service. Absolutely. I would not burn anyone's holy book, and I don't think anyone should, but if it's not a crime, don't throw anyone in jail for it. Reacting to the news of the successful conviction appeal, Mr. Jenrick labeled it an important victory for free speech. 100% agree. He wrote on X, Hamit Koskin has been cleared. Good. I didn't like what Mr. Koskin did. Burning a religious text was not pleasant, but it was also never criminal. So this is an important victory for free speech. Parliament voted to abolish blasphemy laws 20 years ago. It was disgraceful that the authorities attempted to recreate them by backdoor. 100% agree. Hamit Koskin said he had come to England to be able to speak freely about the dangers of radical Islam, and now is reassured that he is free to educate the British public about my beliefs. In a statement following the ruling, he said, I want to thank the Free Speech Union, the National Secular Society, my lawyers, the MPs who have supported me, and the judges for the decision today. And he was born in Turkey, and he's out protesting in front of the Turkish consulate. I think this is a very appropriate sort of protest, other than I personally wouldn't have burned the Quran. And I'm not Muslim, so I really have no skin in that game. I came to England having been persecuted in Turkey to be able to speak freely about the dangers of radical Islam. I am reassured that despite many troubling developments, I will now be free to educate the British public about my beliefs. The FSU said the ruling sends a message that anti-religious protests, however offensive to true believers, must be tolerated. Yes, that's right. We should not be criminalizing offensive speech. That's not the police's job. No matter what you say, someone will be offended. The government should not be in the business of deciding what's offensive. That's how people get thrown in jail by Karens for free speech type things, like saying, hey, I don't like these migrants here, take their flags down. People just turn that all racial and turn that into a hate crime, and you get to jail. No, I just don't want migrants here. And yes, if you're a migrant, that's probably offensive. Too bad. Offensive speech is legal, folks. Speech that is popular with the majority or with the government really doesn't need protection. It's offensive speech that needs protection. That's why in America we have the First Amendment. Unfortunately, you guys don't have that and really don't have free speech in the UK. You really need to get your politicians to get in there and redo all of these hate speech type laws, all of these public order offense type laws. They're so vague that you can throw anyone in jail for anything with them. Union Director Lord Toby Young of Acton said, we're delighted. Had the verdict been allowed to stand, it would have sent a message to religious fundamentalists up and down the country that all they needed to do to enforce their blasphemy codes was to violently attack the blasphemer, thereby making him guilty of having caused public disorder. Yeah, the person who's actually assaulting somebody else should definitely get the higher sentence than the person who's protesting. Look at Epping. The attempted rapist got a year. The 3 men who protested against it got 2 years each. Help me make sense out of that. Tell me in the comments, did they deserve 2 years for what they did? Did that guy in Epping deserve a year for attempted rape? You tell me. I think that's backwards. Mr. Koskin's trial in June saw him convicted at Westminster Magistrates Court of a religiously aggravated public order offense of using disorderly behavior within the hearing or sight of a person likely to be caused harassment, alarm, or distress. So see, here we go. Harassment, alarm, or distress is so vague. Someone is always going to be alarmed, distressed, or harassed by something you say. Always. There are Karens everywhere. By hostility towards members of a religious group, namely followers of Islam. Referring to his conduct outside the Turkish consulate earlier this year, Mr. Justice Benethan told Southwark Crown Court this was clearly political speech or conduct. Yes, absolutely. Insulting conduct is not sufficient, and we should be careful not to read down the words we are considering. Yes, that's right. So finally, he got a judge who actually is applying the law the way it was really intended. Mr. Justice Benethan also mentioned the fact that Koskin's actions were not directed at a person or people in particular. We live in a liberal democracy, the judge continued. One of the precious rights that affords us is to express our own views and read, hear, and consider ideas without the state intervening to stop us doing so. Hear, hear. The price we pay for this is having to allow others to exercise the same rights, even if that upsets, offends, or shocks us. Absolutely. Campaign group, the National Secular Society, said the judgment was an important victory for freedom of expression, describing Mr. Koskin's action as a lawful act of political dissent. So I'm glad he won, but look, he spent, a year or two having to fight this thing. And so just that suppresses speech. But this is what has to happen. Don't plead guilty to these offenses. Fight them all the way in the court. Don't be another Lucy Conley and end up with 31 months, or don't be a guy who gets 2 years for naughty tweets because you pled guilty. Plead not guilty, fight it all the way in the courts. Make them work for it if they're going to put you in jail when you believe you've done nothing wrong. Luckily, again, this guy drew a good judge who actually applied the law fairly, it appears to me. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe if you do. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Thanks. Bye.